Hello, hello.
Oh,
So today Dana and I will have a conversation about communication beyond words. Like, sometimes we feel we have no words for what we want to say, but we're still communicating it. I think in a one-on-one relationship is that pretty good and decent, but sometimes we even have this within ourselves. I've had like a few hours today like that where I didn't really knew what? I can't see the future, or I couldn't even predict anything anymore. Felt like just relaxing and doing nothing, but I received lots of information in that time too. And I think in my own personal experience, those moments when I let go and actually admit that I don't know, they just have a sensation and a feeling, a direction of where to go to, or where I'm going, where I'm heading. That things fall into place automatically. So before we start talking, I just invite us all, like, and whoever listens, to just take a conscious breath and be aware of that breath entering the belly. Exhale gently through the mouth with the intention to let go of whatever might be causing friction. And yeah, what is your take on nonverbal communication or communication beyond words? Like, what's present for you?
yes, that's interesting because I was elaborating on this yesterday that energy speaks, right? And I've been pretty dialed into that since I was very young. And I know we had also had a conversation about the sensory input that communicates to us as well. And so oftentimes when I'm interacting with somebody, especially one on one, I am getting so much information energetically through the body language, through their voice. Like there's so much that's coming through, and it might not all formulate into a word. Sometimes it does. I know we were talking about that as well about the capability to have conversations telepathically. Um, when we're really, really in touch and we don't have that external noise or distraction. We have that clarity that can come through. And
Interesting.
I've had that with a few people in my life. Yeah.
Let me tell you, like, depending on, like, let's talk about the now.
Yeah.
And because I know that synchronicities build up, that these experiences um, become more and more in my own life, in your life, as you just shared, and I'm sure other people do as well. But like, what do you see in like someone's body and tone? Like, how do you perceive that you talk about? Because I kind of know what you're referring to. I'm in a similar position. That I am studying tonality my entire life, my own body, my whole life, the way that my fingers are positioned when I'm talking to you and those types of things. But for some people, it might be new, like,
Yes. Okay, so let's first discuss something that's top of mind for me about the voice. The vocal tone can tell us a whole lot. I know we're discussing, nonverbal cues too, but I want to discuss the voice first because you brought that up. So the pace of somebody's voice, the sense of whether or not it is a more of a smooth voice or a rigid, sort of contracted sound can tell us a lot about it's basically coming from their nervous system. And what I have found is that if I am intentionally being a space holder, I can also help to soothe that nervous system. But those nervous system cues can tell us a lot as well, where, say, in the instance of somebody who's being disingenuine, We can notice that through the pace and the tone of their voice. We can notice that through their body language too.
Give me some examples listening to my voice and my body.
Yeah, so it's come up before, and I'll say this again, like you have a very soothing voice and it's calm, which is noticed in the presence that you emit because you are centered in yourself. You have a calm, regulated nervous system. Your voice is also calm, and that brings that out of others oftentimes too, from what I've
Mhm.
observed. And your vocal tone is very intentional as well, thoughtful and intentional. Um, there's not
Let me ask you
inconsistencies.
let me ask you another question because someone told me that my voice is in two different
It is.
frequencies.
I can hear
Tell me
that.
more.
Hmm. Yes, it's
Because
interesting.
like for others as well, like why do I ask these questions? I probably some may think, oh, this dude is listening to him own self. He looks for approval or whatever, but it's not that way.
No, I know.
Um, but we are not always listening to ourselves, or how other people perceive us might be different to how we perceive ourselves. So, just using that moment to have a reflection.
So the deeper tone that's coming through, you do have a multidimensional tone there. And the deeper tone that's coming through is what is eliciting that calming presence and that grounded presence. I've noticed, not so much right now, but in general, occasionally there's an inflection that can, signal maybe some type of an excitement or, not often with you a nervous energy, but every once in a while. It's like very rare. And the and as far as why you have both, I'm not entirely sure. I can sense through our interaction that you are a multidimensional individual and can connect to multiple instances simultaneously. So it is likely related to that, but I don't have a clear answer for you on that. Like on the vocal tone, my vocal tones change quite a bit too, especially depending on the setting and the individual.
Hmm. Yeah, and we are all like multidimensional beings. It's just like I think depends on how much we are actually aware of it and how much of it we can utilize at the same time. Because some people think, okay, yo, now I'm utilizing my body,
Mhm.
now I'm utilizing my mind, and when I'm utilizing my mind, I may forget about my body.
Mhm.
But it's not like that. It's like I'm utilizing my mind and my body is utilized at the same time.
Right.
When I'm not aware of that happening, it is more difficult for me to see the relation of mind and body and also what imprints my thoughts or whatever goes on in my mind has on my physical being. So I think there is a relation to that as I'm aligning my mind and my body and having my soul in harmony within the two. I think it's more easy for me to speak in the way that this frequency comes out that I was also questioning about because for me, I'm studying myself my entire life a lot, and I'm very critical with anything that I do, or the results that I get, or how I'm feeling after I've had a conversation. So I'm just always refining, readjusting the ways that I speak, act, behave, think, intend, feel. It's just very intense. And not everyone has to do this, but I can say it's a funny journey if we take ourselves with a yeah, just not too serious always. I learned that. But
Yeah,
yeah.
it's important to relax and settle in too. And again, we're usually we can find that much more easily when we're in the presence of somebody who is centered and rooted and who has already a calm presence because they have regulated their nervous system and or they have integrated both those aspects. And then there's not as much thinking that needs to happen at all because the mind tries to control, the interaction as a survival perspective. Oftentimes it's ego driven. And it's interesting because something else that was just coming up for me with you as you were speaking is that your vocal tone was like deeply resonant from like even the heart space. So it's interesting because when we think about how, like, what area of our body is kind of bringing that voice forward, yours is like, I can sense like a resonance in your heart space.
Mhm.
And that's the other thing, too, for me, that speaks oftentimes from the nonverbal perspective, is being able to tune in to my body and what is my body cueing based upon my interaction with somebody else? Because we can notice changes in our breathing patterns. We can notice changes in our vocal tones, our communication, our body language. We can feel tightness in certain areas of our body. Our bodies are really a big piece of our intuitive guidance, more so than
Mhm.
the mind. The
I
mind
like
makes
that.
it.
Yeah. Like for me, like the body holds the score as well of past thoughts, right? Intentions, behaviors, actions, emotions, feelings. Um, so yeah, I started seeing or always noticed it actually, but consciously like in teenager time of my life that what I said and how I said it had a different impact on me and the person that I'm talking to. And kind of growing up in a world where no one really talks about that often, or not many at least. If you had parents who teach you these things or who practice themselves, what makes it easier for you to be in that energy, to embody it from an early age. Like we come in those, it feels like a contradiction to what we know to be true and what we've been told or shown, and to analyze what's true and what not, or what is harmful and what is, peaceful, healing, connective. Because there's a difference in the way that we use words and the power of words and the power of language. I know you have to do or have studied certain aspects of NLP. I know many other people that I talked to did too, and I appreciate the people who utilize it for good purpose, no manipulation, but to be aware of the manipulation that happens behind the background that people usually do, to kind of use it as a self defensive or to self protect, right? Which is very important too. But yeah, I think awareness might be the first step for us to be aware of the consequences of how we feel like when I'm speaking to my mom or I'm speaking to whoever, like, whoever we talk to in day-to-day life. How does it feel and resonate in my body
Right.
when I'm speaking these words and how I speak them?
And also, and how it feels when we receive them too, both, right? It tells us a lot, yes, to tune into our bodies. I mean, one thing that happens for me oftentimes if I'm feeling a lot of energetic resonance is I will feel either, goosebumps or oftentimes I'll also feel a tingling in my crown chakra. And those are usually confirmation cues for me. That can be whether or not I am tuning in terms of like divine intuition and guidance, or in interaction with another individual or individuals. Those are definitely, for me personally, some pretty big cues. Um, and I can also feel too, like for me, my heart space. So based upon my history, like I would close that off for protection back when I needed to, because I was still processing things from my past. But now it's so open that if I feel any sense of a contraction, that is a huge cue for me, because I usually live quite open hearted. So if my body starts to contract like that, it's a big flag for me to tune in to why that's happening with that individual or in that setting.
Mm. Yeah, it takes more, or it takes less energy, and it's like more present as we practice it. But I think back as children, we come here being that open
Yes.
and shut down. And depending on how far we've walked into a certain direction, it might be harder for us to go back if we walked the wrong way or the wrong direction.
Well,
I mean, yeah.
that's a really big topic, not one that I want to get too far off on a tangent on today, because it's not necessarily what we're discussing. But I mean, I have traversed the depths of the darkness and moved through that and alchemized. And there was a reason and a purpose for that. And it wasn't just based upon solely my own life choices. So that can get misconstrued sometimes if we don't know the whole story.
But still, like looking back, there has been a communication going on
Mhm.
inside whilst we made decisions and walked into certain directions. So, and this is also kind of what I'm pointing towards, having the topic about like communication beyond words, because there's an inner knowing of,
Yeah.
okay, yo, I don't know why. I know it's painful, but I keep moving into that direction. Um, so we may not logically know it. We may not have words as we know words, but we have like a sensation, okay, yo, this is kind of what I'm curious about figuring out.
Mhm.
Sounds weird, but I think it is that way. So,
Like
and I
why?
think there's just lots of curiosity of the soul to see what this experience is like and to transform that pain into power, turn suffering into grace, learn to be more compassionate, and all of those things, to have an insight. What's your take on that?
Yeah, so I think kind of part of what I was taking away from that is the question a little bit around why do people choose pain? And I know many would say, no, I'm not choosing this. Why would I choose that? Right? Because it's usually very much subconscious. It's not a conscious choice at that point in time. And the reason why that oftentimes occurs is because it is based upon the subconscious programming. So we tend to naturally gravitate to what feels familiar. So if we are choosing something, even though maybe we're not consciously wanting that outcome, we're choosing what is familiar based upon our past experiences and conditioning and that subconscious mind programming. So that's a big reason why, too, both for myself, my own self healing journey, as well as working with others, why I bring in that neuroscience NLP aspect. Because once we recognize, begin to bring those subconscious patterns forward, then we can actually transform them. So we can also, the other aspect of that question is how we transform the pain into power. And that has a lot to do with the alchemy. So what do we siphon out of that experience? How do we extract the wisdom? Like I know we have discussed a little bit historically, the wisdom of what that experience, that person was showing us about ourselves and about the world. It's not just, I mean, yes, some of it is about ourselves, but until we get to that place of a higher level of conscious awareness, we're oftentimes operating on a default mode, right? And so, in transcending that and moving through that, being able to both intentionally reprogram the subconscious words and stories, as well as to alchemize through our experiences and understand what great wisdom they've shown us and how we can take that forward and build something greater is quite a blessing, actually. And that's why, you'll see in a lot of historical examples where they say, like a lot of like a lot of the greats, in history went through periods of trials and suffering because it can teach us a lot as well. But we do have a choice if we want to continue on that path or if we want to move through it. Oftentimes, it's helpful to have a little guidance there. I know we've discussed, I personally didn't ever do any retreats or use plant medicine or anything like that. And I laugh a little bit sometimes in humor because it seems like, oh, that probably would have been a whole lot less painful to move through it that way, as opposed to
Really,
on my own. What's that?
it really depends because if you learn your lesson during the experience of, utilizing these sacred plants, I mean, it really depends on how we do it,
Mm-hmm.
because it can cause more pain than necessary too. So it really depends on the setting, on the intention, on the substance, the timing, the people you're doing it with, the circumstance. So there's like just a lot that goes within. Microdosing is something that I came to very late after having overdosed many times and like having had like difficulties to integrate. So, but no one told me you can just buy them. It's insane. It's insane. Um, but yeah, I mean, like it is just looking at the moon, it's half, it's very beautiful. Um,
So there's something too that I'll share about my personal journey, Anna, is that
sure.
I held I held that part of myself that transcended through the darkness. I held her very tightly, that I didn't fully lose her. And I'm grateful for that. That doesn't always happen. When I,
But do you think she has to go one day?
oh no, I mean she's part of me. You understand? Like it's
Okay,
all part of me.
gotcha. But like, I mean, I'm listening.
So this
I
is
like
why
out of
this
my own experience, I'm no one. And yes, I do understand that there is the little boy aspect, though, like the integration part itself is that he is healed, right?
right.
He's been there, I have been there. So it is, there's no time. Like I am there right now, having healed what I couldn't in a different story in my mind.
Right. Right.
But it's only a story in my mind. And I didn't need the way it was chosen.
Hmm.
The destination is set. right. So and the path in between is basically what I chose to experience through certain things, and also to know that lots of stuff with plant medicine is just bullshit, just the way that it's done. Um, with anything really, it's like over consuming and not having proper prevention and someone who is humble enough to guide you through or to just hold space for you in your own pain. But yeah, it's just very deep. But I know also that plant medicine hasn't it didn't give me anything. It wasn't something that really had the power as the work that I'm doing without it. So again, it's a tool that can help to clear space and to, in a faster way, let's say,
Right.
than the, yeah.
Well, that's the way I understand it too, because it actually assists in opening up the neural pathways. So that's what I understand as far as like it being instrumental and helpful. Just like there are many, many, many modalities, and when it comes to the inner child piece, sometimes I like to say it's just may or may not resonate with everyone, but for me, I became my own protector, provider, and best friend to all those aspects of self. And now they're all part of me. And I also think I want to share that it's important when we consider like the goal is not to abandon the inner child. Like sometimes people think it's like, oh, I have to get rid of that aspect because it's tied to an old story and it's so painful. And this, the goal is to embody it, not abandon it, embody it. And so that's what happens obviously during the integration of all of those various aspects. But when it comes to um, how we do that, how we do it, how we get there, yeah, it can vary for a lot of us, right? And I think it's interesting what you said too about the stories, because when we think about we bring that into the quantum, there's a lot that can be modified beyond the historical experience, um, or what's right in front of us physically. So there's a lot that comes into play when we consider that, because everything is still somewhat of a creation from ourselves, either consciously or subconsciously.
Hmm. I'm sure people are curious of that. Um, I came like for me the car accident that I talked about before as well in previous conversations has been like a big catalyst in my life, and also like a big it just showed me a lot of things through the pain that I felt. And it's again like it is communication beyond words. It's nothing like the moment is the teacher. It's nothing to escape from, let's say. It's
Mhm.
all coming back to center, it's all circling back. And I think the communication beyond words are it's also like the things that lie hidden for plain sight, for 3D logical thinking.
Mhm.
Not just 3D thinking, because 3D thinking can be quite great. Um, Using the intuitive layer as well, not just the logical. But there are reasons why we walk into directions that are seemingly harmful, because it's that stretch, like we're stretching, we're expanding, We're putting us into uncomfortable situations
Hmm.
in order to
Part of our soul growth.
transmute. What did you say?
I said it's part of our soul growth. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And we wouldn't have that type of growth without all of the differences. I said this again as well. Like, I don't know why, but like, let's say those two crystals, they may have been one, and then like we take them apart. Just say that they're two humans, a mother and a child, let's say, and they've been together and then they were separating. And through the separation and the charge between them, there's this growth happening. But the growth wouldn't be as much if the child would stay inside the mother.
Hmm.
Just thinking, right? It's very logical that all of the experiences that happen are through separating, through witnessing, engaging in different bodies, even though the body has been one before, but now experiencing one another in a different light with some shadows and
Hmm.
some things that we cannot see, but others to see, that we may have forgotten, but they can still perceive it. It's that charge that makes us grow.
Hmm.
We earn experience, wisdom, hopefully. And if not, we're kind of stuck in the
The loop.
in
Yeah.
the in the loop, like, and we keep repeating the same things over and over again, complaining about them, but don't change anything.
Hmm.
But that's insanity. We gotta act differently, speak differently, move differently, feel differently, utilize our emotions in a productive manner rather than in a constructive one. It's often like so I've been this way for sure, so self-critical that I was harming myself through calling myself stupid, let's say, because I dropped something. Oh, I'm so stupid. Or, I'm so dumb. Or I'm so this. Or I'm so that. Or I'm so angry. Or I'm so that. I've never said I'm so angry. It's nothing that I actually have a lot of that energy in me. But yeah, I witness it in my family. Something goes wrong and they call themselves stupid.
Hmm. Yeah. Our
And I'm
self.
like, no, you're smart. I like the moment they say it, I'm like, no, you're smart. And every time again, doesn't matter how many times I have to repeat this, but I just let them know that they're smart when they need it.
Our
Because
self-talk.
their internal conversation, right? They're not even thinking of it,
Mhm.
but it comes out as this blurb that's just not true. I mean, they make it their reality by believing, thinking, speaking it.
Right. It
So the
reinforces.
water in their body is structuring that way. So the resonance field, like the attractor field, is attracting that type of energy back.
Yep.
But it doesn't has to be that way.
So, the tagline on my podcast is what we tell ourselves we believe, what we believe we become. And that has a lot to do with what you're discussing, right? Around what we're saying to ourselves, how we're speaking to ourselves. Are we treating ourselves with love, right? And how would we expect, especially continuing to do that, like how would we expect others to treat us with kindness if we're not treating ourselves with kindness? It's really important. Sometimes people speak to themselves in certain ways, though, too, because they've been programmed to do that, because they've been fed lies, right? But we can disrupt that pattern. We definitely can.
We can disrupt any pattern if we like to. And I like to speak about this often that like our body is changing all the time. Like no cell in my body is the same in 7 years. So what I can do in 7 years' time and how I can change is something to contemplate about. If really not one single cell is the same, I can reinvent my entire body. I
It's
can lose all the fat that I want to lose. I can get all of the pimples off of my face if I want to, without surgery.
Mhm. Or pills.
You know, or whatever.
Yes. No, actually, I definitely agree with that. So it's interesting. Like, I think it'll be really, really interesting what we continue to see with the development and study of epigenetics, because we can actually intentionally change that cellular structure, not just through our habits and behaviors, but with our mind. And in fact, there have been some individuals I've known who are in remission that were cancer patients that use the power of the mind to be able to heal themselves. There's a lot that we can do, a lot more than what is always readily known. But I think we're coming into a lot more awareness collectively than
And
we
to
were.
bring it back full circle with the conversational, with the topic of the conversation, it's like the communication that happens beyond words is also like the vision. Like
Mhm.
every time we speak, we visualize something. Sometimes we speak some words, but we actually see something else happening. And what we see happening internally has actually more worth than what we perceive externally, as the dark matter is way more than what we actually perceive. You know, we perceive like such a fraction of the light spectrum, of the entire spectrum of light. It's insane. You know, and cats, they just see like a whole,
They're so aware. Yes.
like they just see different things.
They're so
And
incredibly aware.
yes, you know,
Animals
but
are so tapped into the nonverbal communication. They're so much more naturally focused on their sensory input because they're not speaking the same language as us, right? They don't have the words
exactly.
we use. Mhm.
But like what we visualize beyond, and I get distracted myself.
Okay.
Um, when I had the car, like the car accident itself, like I wasn't thinking, I just knew there was this inner knowing, this vision that I will rebuild myself in a very short period of time. Like there was no, I wasn't saying these words. I wasn't necessarily having thoughts telling me this, but the thoughts have more been like visions and feelings and expressions and way of beings that I knew I had to act in accordingly to what I want to achieve. And I think this is what we miss often is like we say affirmations, but we can't visualize ourselves
Mhm.
doing these things. So yes, it helps on one layer to rewire ourselves in this way, but and I wrote thousands of times I love myself for who I am, thousands of times. And like every time it just became stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger until my entire body started to just resonate that. And I started to like to really see what it means to believe myself speaking these words
Yes.
because of the way that I show up. Hmm?
We actually, that's an interesting point because there's a lot of this I've experienced, and a lot of studies that have been done to show that we energetically shift before our physical reality shifts. And yes, the repetition is what hardwires it. But also, too, if we're just thinking from a mind perspective, and we're using affirmations are wonderful. I've used them a lot myself too. But if we're only thinking from a mind perspective in words, if we have energetic blocks, it's still not going to fully get through. We might start to talk to ourselves different, but our reality won't entirely shift if we still have those energetic blocks.
Yeah, they for sure have their place, but I also must say that like action is always stronger than the affirmation.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I have the opportunity to act new or to write down affirmations, the act is stronger. If I'm I've been myself in a place where I just didn't want it to act, so I wrote down, but I visualized myself what I was writing down at the same time. So we kind of have to have this awareness of what's happening internally whilst we're doing the externally, because this is also, again, like nonverbal communication or communication beyond words. For me, this is all kind of part of that. It's like, what am I visualizing speaking to you? Like, what am I transmitting speaking these words into this camera?
Mm.
Not blinking with my eye or whatever. Like, but there's like there, there's there's like so much going on behind the actual words that we speak and
Yes.
that we are not aware of, and it's not always what we perceive. Very
Mm.
rarely, actually, what we perceive is true. It mostly is what's not being perceived or what is behind the layers in the multidimensional field of existence, and this what we actually perceive with our two eyes is
A small fraction, right?
very
Hmm.
small.
It is. And it's interesting, though, speaking of eyes, because I know we've had that conversation before as well. And the eyes are powerful communicators as well, right? Like there's that saying that the eyes are the window to the soul. And it's very true. We can see so much specifically through the eyes, the crazy eyes. um, but yes, there's not everything is going to translate into words. I think that's what's really important for us to recognize. I want to just call that out because we may feel something, we may connect to that energetic signal that somebody's transmitting or that we're receiving or we're transmitting, whatever the case may be. We may connect to that and we want as humans to make sense and kind of define it, and it's not always that simplistic that it just falls into one particular word, right? And that's okay because we are multidimensional. It's okay. Like we can sense, like I can sense, I feel comfortable in our conversation. I feel calm, right? I feel positive, energetic resonance. Like I can notice those things and not have to overcomplicate it with my mind. That's where that discipline between what our mind is communicating and the words and what our body is communicating is so important. Because if we're overpronating in one or the other, we're out of balance. And then we could completely miss the input entirely.
Interesting. I think we can leave it there. I think it's a great end because it is about real listening, I think. To listen to the things between the lines, and to read between the lines and to hear what's not being said, but not what's being talked about, but what's being said. And I think what we talk about and what we're saying are often, they differ.
Sometimes, right. Yeah. And I would add, but beyond, like I'd add in addition to listening, right, with our body and our ears, noticing. That's a little bit of a slight differentiation, right? Because the listening is the perception, but the noticing is when we start to bring that into our integration, right? We bring that into more of our conscious awareness.
Like hearing.
Yes.
Yeah. Awesome. Then thank you.
Always a pleasure.
Um,
Thank you.
let's take that calmness with, and yeah, have some calm breaths during the day. I think having the intention is a good end. So thank you everyone for watching. Let us know your thoughts and inspirations and likes and dislikes.
All feedback is
Peace.
feedback.
Yeah. Peace and love to you all, and see you soon.